Okay, for today's lab, we will be looking at articulations or joints. You can classify joints either by function or by structure. Functional classification, you just classify them based on the type of movement that they allow. You can have immovable joints, which are synarthroic. You can have ambiarthroic joints, which are slightly movable. And then diarthroic joints or diarthroses. These are freely movable joints. And like it says on the word bank, freely movable joints are mostly in the limbs and your appendicular skeleton, while the immovable or slightly movable joints are restricted to the axial skeleton. Okay, so in the lab, the pictures, we look at the different structural classifications. So we're going to look at fibrous joints, we're going to look at cartilaginous joints, and then synovial joints. Synovial joints are the biggest group because most of your joints in your body are synovial. And then we'll look at the different types of synovial joints and the movements that they allow. Then we'll look at some specialized synovial joints. Okay, so the first structural classification that we're going to look at are fibrous joints. These are joints that are joined by fibrous connective tissue. How long the fiber is determines the amount of movement that joint allows. Most of them are synarthroic, which means that they're immovable, like the sutures of your skull. Okay, so this is where your skull bones fuse together. They fuse at these sutures, these really, really short fibrous connective tissues. Okay, then you have your syndesmosis. This is where the joint is held together by a ligament. Remember, a ligament is dense, regular connective tissue, joins two bones together. The tissue can vary in length. It's longer than in your sutures. And then you have your gomphosis. This is a peg and socket joint. It's only found in your teeth. This is where you have that periodontal ligament that holds your tooth in those alveolar processes, in those sockets. Okay, then next you have your cartilaginous joints. These are joints that are joined by a pad of cartilage. Most are slightly movable ambiarthrotic joints. You have your synchondroses. This is where the bones are united by hyaline cartilage. Remember, hyaline cartilage is the most abundant cartilage type. You can find these joints at your epiphyseal plate. These are also known as your growth plates. Okay, if you've ever broken your growth plate, it can be pretty bad if that happens in youth while you're still growing. And then we talked about that costal cartilage, where you have your ribs that attach directly to the cartilage that attaches to your sternum. Okay, that's a synchondroses because it's a joint that's made of hyaline cartilage. Then you have your symphysis. These are where your bones are united by fibrocartilage. We've talked about these as well. Your intervertebral disc between your vertebrae. And then your pubic symphysis is made of fibrocartilage. Okay, so synovial joints are the most common joint type in your body. This is where you have bones that are separated by a joint cavity, and inside that joint cavity you have synovial fluid. They're all diarthrotic. That means that they're all freely movable. And these are some of the structural characteristics that they all share. There is an articular capsule, and you can see right here. And you have the fibrous layer and then the synovial membrane. So it's just this, it's this fibrous layer right here and then this green layer right here. That makes up the articular capsule. Okay, so within the articular capsule is your joint. The fibrous capsule is made of dense, irregular connective tissue. Remember, that tissue type withstands pull from many directions, so that would be good to have in a freely movable joint. And then that synovial membrane is what actually secretes the synovial fluid that fills up this joint. This joint is filled with this, it's kind of oily, it's a lubricating secretion, so that it's kind of like putting oil on a ball bearing. And so you have this nice, smooth, gliding movement over these hyaline cartilage pads. Okay? The ends of all of your articulating bones are covered with this hyaline cartilage. Okay? It's also known as articular cartilage. Okay? So you have this nice smooth cartilage, this nice oily synovial fluid. So you have these nice smooth movements in your joints until you get old. Okay, and then you have reinforcing ligaments. You remember ligaments join bone to bone. And the ligaments are made of dense, regular connective tissue. So these collagen fibers are all lined up in parallel, whichever direction the joint moves. And then you can have fibrocartilage pads, like in your knee. You have these fibrocartilage pads called your menisci or your meniscus. If you've ever heard of someone tearing their meniscus, they've torn that fibrocartilage pad in their knee. Okay, and then you have different subcategories of your synovial joints because there are so many different types of synovial joints. So right here you have your plane joint in between your carpals. The articular surfaces are flat and they just kind of glide over each other. And then you have your hinge joint, okay, like at your elbow. We've talked about this. That olecranon process sits in that olecranon fossa on your humerus. And you have your pivot joint. A better example of this, I think, is between your atlas and your axis. Okay, you have that dens that pivots so that you can shake your head no. Then you have your condylar joint. You have these oval articular surfaces that kind of fit into each other. Okay, this is found between your metacarpals and your phalanges, so your metacarpal phalangeal joint where your knuckles are. Then you have a saddle joint. Okay, it looks kind of like a saddle on top of a little horse. And this is found in your carpal-metacarpal joints in your thumbs so that you can have opposition of your thumbs. And then the ball and socket joint, we talked about this with your shoulder. The head of that humerus sits in that glenoid cavity or that glenoid fossa of your scapula. And then same thing at your hip. You have the head of the femur that sits in that acetabulum. Okay, and these are some of the movements that are allowed at synovial joints. You have flexion, where you decrease the angle of that joint, and then you have extension, where you increase the angle, and then hyperextension is where you go beyond the normal range of movement. Okay, abduction, I always think of like if you abduct a child, you take it away. So abduction is where you move away from the body, and then adduction is moving toward the body. And then circumduction is just where your limb defines a cone in space. So circumduction is like a circle. Rotation, just movement from side to side. You have a lateral rotation out and then medial rotation back in. You have a pronation and supination. So if you put your arm out in front of you with your palm facing the floor, okay, and then turn your palm so that it's facing the ceiling, okay, that is supination. And you can remember that. If you make your hand like a cup, then you can hold some soup. Okay, and then if you rotate your arm so that your palm faces the floor, okay, that's pronation, and just think pour because you're pouring out that soup. And it's kind of neat when your arm is pronated, your radius is actually crossed over your ulna. And then you have dorsiflexion. Okay, this is where you flex your toes, and then plantar flexion, where you point your toes. Inversion and eversion, these only apply to the foot. So inversion, you roll your ankle, roll the plantar part of your foot inwards, and then eversion is where you roll the bottom of your foot out. Then you have protraction and retraction of your mandible. Now we're going to look at a special synovial joint. We're going to look at the knee joint. Your knee is unique because it doesn't have an articular capsule that completely encloses the knee, so it's not quite as stable, but it does allow for quite a good range of motion, or quite a bit of range of motion. Okay, so we'll look at some of the structures here. Here you have your quadriceps tendon that arises from your quadricep. It attaches to your patella. And then here you have your patellar ligament. that anchors your patella to that tibial tuberosity that we've talked about before. This allows the patella to kind of glide along the femur whenever you flex at your knee. And then we'll actually go to the next view. Hey, you don't have to know the patellar retinaculum. You just know that those help reinforce that knee joint. You do need to know, if you're looking at your word bank, you just need to know the ones in bold. You do need to know your tibial collateral ligament. This is also known as your medial collateral ligament because it's on the medial side. Okay, you can abbreviate that MCL for medial collateral ligament. And then you have your fibular collateral ligament. It attaches your fibula to your femur. It's on the lateral side, so it's also known as your LCL. Okay, so you have your MCL and your LCL. Okay, and then here, these are your menisci, those fibrocartilage pads. Okay, you have your lateral meniscus on the lateral side and the medial meniscus on the medial side. And within this capsule, you have some intracapsular ligaments that you need to know. Your anterior cruciate ligament, okay, it's on the anterior side. These are called your cruciate ligaments because they actually cross within the knee. Okay, so you have your ACL and your PCL, anterior posterior cruciate ligaments. Okay, and on this view you can really see how those ligaments cross. Okay, anterior cruciate ligament, posterior cruciate ligament here. There's your fibular collateral ligament, and then tibial collateral ligament. Okay, so now we're going to look at this invisible body just so you can move it around and see some of these structures a little bit better. We're actually going to hide these, and we'll go ahead and hide the patella. Okay, so here you have your patellar ligament. Okay, and then if you rotate around, sorry, hide some more. We're going to hide that articular capsule. Okay, so here you can see you have your lateral collateral ligament, or your fibular collateral ligament. This attaches to the lateral epicondyle of the femur. So remember when we studied the landmarks of the femur? And that's where that ligament attaches. And then same thing over here with your tibial collateral ligament or your medial collateral ligament. It attaches to the medial epicondyle of your femur. And then, let's look inside. Okay, you can see, let's see if we can click. Hey, here's this anterior cruciate ligament. And then we're going to rotate around. I'm going to take off that oblique ligament. Okay, there's that posterior cruciate ligament. Now you can see these are the condyles of the femur. You can see how this posterior cruciate ligament attaches to the medial condyle of the femur, and this anterior cruciate ligament crosses and attaches to the lateral condyle of the femur. Okay, so you'll need to know where these structures attach. Okay, and so you'll also need to know the movements that these cruciate ligaments kind of prevent. So it's pretty easy to remember the anterior cruciate ligament, if you see how it's set up, it prevents anterior movement of your tibia. Okay, so it keeps your tibia from sliding out in front of your femur. And it kind of makes sense if you see how this is set up. Okay, it kind of pulls that tibia back. And then the posterior cruciate ligament, okay, prevents that posterior displacement, of the tibia. So that kind of makes sense here. If you put tension here, okay, you prevent that tibia from sliding out behind your femur.